administration during King Ashoka's period. Kautilya's Arthashastra. Kautilya's Arthashastra was published in 1909. Kautilya's management were a combination of state socialism and regional autonomy. The principle enunciated in this laid strong foundation for the Mauryan administration. It also proved that ancient Indians knew about democracy. Political administration. Mauryan army was huge and it was the strongest in India. Royal order superseded even dharma, which could be interpreted by the king according to changes. Even social and religious life was regulated by the king. According to Arthashastra, the king owes nothing to anyone. But Ashoka asserted, "All men are my children, and I strive only to discharge the debt that I owe to all living creatures." He built centers for medical treatment of men and beasts and rest houses. Ashoka also toured the country for direct contact with his subjects. But he also adopted the title Devanampiya, that is, beloved of the gods. Council of ministers were appointed by Ashoka on the basis of their integrity. Inner council ministers, that is, mantris, were small in number and were consulted on urgent matters. 18 departments, that is, tirthas of the central government, were looked after by the ministers. The city council was divided into 6 subcommittees. The head of the urban administration was called Nagarika. The city administration included maintenance of sanitation and water sources, checking adulteration, precautions against fire, etc. The army, espionage network, law and justice, and other public welfare came under the central administration. Local administration carried out public works. The army consisted of infantry, cavalry, elephants, chariots, transport and admiral of the fleet. Each branch was under a committee of 5 members and under a commander. Departments looked after the production and maintenance of armaments, recruitment policy, war plans, and fortifications, etc. The Mauryan administration maintained espionage on important officials and general public. Megasthenes has described in detail the administrative machinery during Maurya's period. Legal system. Offences under law included violation of marriage laws, divorce, murder, adultery, etc. Gramika were village courts and there were courts of Janapada and the center. There were 2 kinds of courts. The first category would settle disputes of marriage, etc. And the second category dealt with wages of workers, conduct of workers, murder, etc. The sources of law were dharma, vyavahara, that is current legal courts, charita, that is customs and royal decree. The king had the supreme judicial power. Crime rate was not very high. Cases were decided by body of arbitrators with a system of appeal to the king. But penalties were casteist. That is, for the same offence, a Brahmana's punishment was less than the Shudra. Revenue. The treasury was looked after by an official called Sannidhata. Revenues were collected in form of 21 taxes. Sita was taxes from crown lands and Bhaga was from the cultivators. The mineral wealth was a regular source of income. Taxes were also levied on exports and imports. The state control over the armament industry and salt trade increased its revenue. the gamblers had to pay 5% of their winnings. The state also imposed additional taxes in the case of emergencies. There were various departments to collect, regulate, and manage the state revenues. Most of the revenue was spent on army, administration, salaries, king, etc. Public works. Irrigation was a major source of revenue. Dams, ponds, canals were built. Regulations for using water resources were set up. State ensured medical and monetary help during natural calamities to animals too. Laying down and repair of roads and opening of inns was done by the state. This must have increased during the time of Ashoka. Provincial administration. The kingdom was divided into 4 provinces, that is, Toshali in the east, Ujjain in the west, Suvarnagiri in the south, and Takshashila in the north. Their head was the royal prince, who used to govern them as the king's representative. The Kumara was assisted by the council of ministers called Mahamatyas, who checked on Kumara and also had direct relations with the king. Mahamatyas also looked after border areas, judicial work, etc. They were appointed both by the king and the Kumara. Amatyas were another category of high officials against whom people revolted during Ashoka's period. District and village level administration. Each village had its own administrative unit. Officials at district level were Pradeshtha, Rajuka and Yukta. Pradeshtha was in charge of the district. Their functions included survey and assessment of land, tours and inspections, revenue collection and maintenance of law and order, etc. The king was in direct touch with these officers. Ashoka granted Rajukas independent authority for public works. The Yukta gave secretarial assistance to the other 2. Village level administration was Gramika. Gopa and Sthanika were the 2 types of officers acted as intermediaries between the district and village level administration. They demarcated village boundaries, maintained land records, recording taxes, etc. But the villages did have certain amount of autonomy. Important points to remember in this essay are: 1. Kautilya's Arthashastra, discovered in 1905, shed light on the Mauryan Empire. 2. Mauryan army was the strongest in India. 3. Courts were set up at village and district levels. 4. Treasury was looked after by Sannidhata. 5. The kingdom was divided into 4 provinces under the royal prince. 6. Village level administrator was Gramika.